I always wait a little bit at the beginning of these. I think we're okay though. All right, hello, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. And today we're going to talk about automatic English fluency, basically how to program your brain so that it gets you fluent automatically. All right, looks like chat is working. That's good news. All right, let's get started. I don't think this will be a long lesson portion, but who knows? We will see what kind of questions we get. But hopefully, oh, look at George. Nice to see you there. Tom, nice to see you there. Everybody right on time. So I do try to keep these timely, or I guess not timely, but on time. But in today's video, I want to talk about a couple of different things, but all related to basically using your mind the right way so you can program yourself for what to pay attention for so that your brain will notice things and it will let you know, hey, like here's an example of something, here's something you should pay attention to, and that'll get you fluent faster. So I wanted to make this video because people have been asking me about, I think there's still uncertainty about how people should be learning, and also if you're trying to get fluent by yourself, what can you do to actually practice the language? So to practice using it, and develop your understanding. So recently, I was speaking with my wife. I think this was like a few days ago, and we were talking about the difference between, oh no, my marker, oh my eraser over here. See if this still, yeah, it's still working. So we were talking about the difference between until and by. So by has a couple of different meanings, but specifically when talking about time. So I had actually, she had confused until and by, and I had confused the Japanese equivalent of made and made ni. And so we were talking about that, and I was just trying to help her understand it and thinking about trying to help her understand this. I'll give you like a quick lesson about this right now. So you can think about this. If we have just a time period, if you're confused about until versus by. So until, we're actually talking about like sometime before until this point over here. But by, we're actually more concerned about like this time period here and after. I know it sounds a little bit odd to think about it this way, but it works the same way in Japanese when we're talking about like made and made ni. But in general, when I was talking with my wife about this, the confusion is because they're both talking about the same point in time, where like I need to like finish my work, or I have until 5 o'clock to finish something. So I can actually finish my work at any time during this time. I can finish my work at 1 o'clock or 1:30 or 2 or 4, but I have to finish it. I have until 5 o'clock. So when I'm talking about until, I'm talking about any time up until this specific point. But by, it's talking about the same period, but the important thing is this specific time, not this whole kind of area of time here, because something else will happen from this time. So I have to finish it by Friday because it's the weekend, and then the professor will, grade the tests or, check my paper or something like that. So there, we can even be talking about I need to do something until 5 or by 5, but the difference is what we're talking about. Are we talking about the period of time before something happens, or are we talking about something that's about to happen or will happen during some other period of time here? So the interesting thing was I was talking with my wife about this, and also me trying to get more examples of like made, I won't write the Japanese, but made and made ni, which were both examples of this same thing. And what was interesting is that as I focused on that particular thing, I started seeing more examples of that all over the place. So I saw it in the things I was reading, or I heard it on the news or something like that. And so what you'll notice when you're trying to learn languages or anything really, the thing that you focus on it becomes very obvious in your world. So people who are looking for a new house or a new car or something like that, they will start seeing information about that thing all over the place. So if you're looking for even a specific thing, I want to buy a minivan or a red minivan or a specific, whatever kind of car it is, I will start seeing those all over the place because I'm telling my mind, I'm telling my mind, focus on that thing. And so what you will often see, like kind of English lessons or whatever, when people are trying to study something, they will look at a particular, I'm trying to give you this very quickly and help you understand this, but the better way to do it is just to get lots of examples and so you see how it works. And so like I was working out until this time. So I was working out until this time. I was playing at the beach until this time. I have to finish my homework by this time. So by this time because that's the cutoff period and something else will happen after that. All right? So those are just a few examples, but as you get more of them and you hear them in different tenses, hear them from different speakers, that will also help you understand those things more like a native. So really we want to understand when people say things. So we have, again, what I usually talk about here for these lessons when we're learning English as a first language, so you're learning like a native speaker, you want to learn when people say things because you're paying attention to the language patterns that people use. And so when we have, at this time or in this situation, people will say this thing, or they might say this thing or this thing, something like that. And so when you're paying attention for the language patterns, you will get examples of the particular grammar or the vocabulary you're focusing on, but you will also get other examples of other things you can say. Okay? So remember, people will give examples of you use until for this, or you use by for this example. And that can be helpful, but often people will be thinking more about the rules, and the whole point is to develop automatic fluency. And so we want to tell our brain, hey, you should focus on this. This is the particular thing we want you or I want you to focus on. So when I'm getting lots of examples, I might try to, you call it seeding, to seed your brain. So you seed your brain by giving your brain examples, whatever that is, if I'm focusing on a particular grammar point or something that's a little bit more kind of difficult for me. But the easy way to understand this is it's when you really want something or you're very interested in something, your mind will begin to get more of that information for you. It will make more of that obvious and it will tell you, hey, here's another example of that thing. You will notice it a lot more when you are paying attention for it. Okay, hopefully this makes sense. But the basic idea is if you look at your brain, so every day your brain is getting lots of information. I'll draw a quick little brain over here. So there's lots of information coming into your brain all the time. You're seeing things, you're hearing things, and a lot of it you don't notice. You don't consciously notice, you're not actively paying attention to it. And so what happens is your brain is kind of cutting out a lot of this information. And it's only letting a few of these things come to your active, kind of, my active awareness level of understanding, okay? But the interesting thing is, like I just gave the example before, if you tell your brain, hey, I want you to focus on this, then your brain will find more examples of that thing for you, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So another example of this is when I'm teaching my kids, and I understand this principle. So if I hear my kids, or maybe they learn a new word or phrase, or they're asking me about something and how something works, I will intentionally give them more examples of that. Just every few days, I will give them another example until they get it, until they start using that thing, because it means they've understood that well enough that they have the confidence to use it. So one example is with my older daughter, Aria. So Aria was, I think she was playing a game with me. We were throwing some teddy bears around the room. I don't remember exactly what we were doing. But I was over here, and she was over here. I'll put some long hair on her. So this is me, this is her. And I was throwing the teddy bear up in the air like this. And she was trying to throw the teddy bear this way, and we were kind of passing them around like this. So throwing the teddy bears around. And at first, like, she was like, oh no, like she threw her teddy bear up here and I threw mine, and they hit each other and they just fell to the ground. And she said, oh no, we didn't get it. So I said, no, look, I'll go over and you go under. Okay, I will go over and you go under. And after a while, then we started getting them moving well. So I was going, oh, we had a nice little circle going like that. And so she said, oh, I'm getting the hang of it. I'm getting the hang of it. I'm getting the hang of it. Now you'll notice this is a T here, or two T's here, but I say getting. This is the American English pronunciation, getting, because it's just faster and easier to say than getting. So I'm getting the hang of it. So I didn't try to teach this phrase to Aria just as like a phrase that I'm saying to her. This is after she had a few examples of other things before. Like when I'm teaching her how to ride a bike, I say, oh look, you're doing well. You're getting the hang of it. You understand how to do it. You're getting the hang of it. So the situation, we have when something is happening. So she is doing some kind of task and understands it. She can perform an action well, and her skill level is increasing. So that's what's happening. That's the situation. And so there are different levels or different ways that I could express that. I could say, oh, you're doing very well. You are improving. You are getting better. Or I could say you are getting the hang of it, which is just a very casual conversational way of expressing the same idea. So because I gave her, she understood the situation, and she knows that getting the hang of it is one thing she could say. There are others. So she's got many ways of saying that. But because I've kind of seeded her brain with that example. Yes, getting the hang of it, getting the hang of it. So I'm getting the hang of playing baseball, or I'm getting the hang of the guitar, whatever that thing is. So you're getting the hang of it, getting the hang of it. And often you can look at this and try to understand it logically, like, what does that mean? Like you're like hanging on something. Why do we even say that? It's like a weird way of expressing that. But even if you don't understand the origin of the word, like my daughter, I didn't try to explain that to her. I'm using the vocabulary and connecting the vocabulary with different situations. So the same thing with my wife, giving examples of like until and by, or for myself learning Japanese. When I tell my brain, this is the thing I'm interested in, I want to learn more about this, please give me more examples, your brain will like naturally find that for you. Okay, so for you out there, the important thing, if you want to develop fluency automatically, just tell your brain what to focus on. It's not about getting like trying to study a rule. Just begin giving your brain more examples of something. And then your brain will automatically begin finding more things. Oh, like this person is interested in this. It's kind of like your brain is responding to your request for information because you are actively looking for more stuff. So your brain will begin to make that more apparent to you. It will make it more obvious for you as you're learning. Yes, your brain. Use your brain over there. Okay, any questions about that specifically? So this is not a complicated idea. The point is really that your brain is getting lots of signals, lots of information coming to it all the time. But most of it just doesn't care about, because if that's not important to you, then your brain will not listen to that. So it's like if someone stands up in a room and says, who here is a doctor? I will stop listening because I'm not a doctor. It's like not a message for me. But if I say, oh, who is interested in like learning more about by and until, let me give you some more examples of that thing until you get it. But that's how you develop the skill. It seems like it should be a logical thing that you just teach yourself a rule and then you use it fluently. But often, especially with grammar, that's not the case. So people need to get more examples of something until they really feel confident that they understand something, they recognize the pattern, they understand when to use something, and then they will start using it fluently. Okay? All right, let me go back and answer questions. If you have questions about this or if you have questions about anything else, do let me know. Let me go back and check this out, though. All right, nice to see everybody here. All right, Hader says hi. Sophia says hi. All right on time. There we go. Cam is back from Thailand. Nice to see you there. Claudia, nice to see you there. Gansham, good morning over there. Kata, nice to see you there. Hi, everyone says 2149212. I can't believe your parents gave you that name. That's a crazy name. Oh, my goodness. Kuhn says, hello, nice to see you there. All right, let's make questions to Teacher Drew. You can say let's make questions for, or you can say let's give questions to, or you can say let's ask questions. Liz, nice to see you there. Li Hua, nice to see everybody there. Let's see, best Japanese teacher ever, says Don. I don't know about that. Yo, still having boring English class and watching you. You should tell your friends in the class about me. To say everybody watch your phone while you should be watching this class over here. All right, let's see. Catch your stream. What I'm wondering is why my teacher's immersed in her teaching method. Well, I think it seems like the logical thing to do is just like, well, look, here's a rule, and we will tell it to you, and then you just remember the rule. And I think that, like, when people ask me, like, if my method is so awesome, why isn't everybody doing it? Like, why doesn't everybody just teach English as a first language? I think the answer is because it doesn't matter for tests. So most people, like for XD to the L over there, if you are learning English maybe in college or high school, I think you're in college, but if you're learning a language for a classroom, you're probably not going to be speaking very much, and most of the the testing will be written form. So maybe you have a listening exam or multiple choice or something like that, but you don't have to actually be tested on that. And when you're reading or writing or even listening, you have time to process information. But in conversations, you have to be quick. You have to respond automatically when people are saying things to you. So that's, I think that's why people do that. I can't say for sure, but even if I were teaching in the classroom still, I would be teaching this way. I would be helping people learn English as a first language because it's still better than the other ways and it prepares you for tests. All right. Yes, so time says bye equals some moment near that specific time. I think I got it. Yeah, so the point is more getting you to think about, like, I try to help you understand something the way a native would understand it, but the point of this video is really that you should be getting lots of examples, and the more examples you get, the more automatic it becomes for you. So you can tell your brain, hey, basically find me more information, tell me more when someone is using this word or you hear something, because if you're not paying attention for it, then you will probably hear examples of things all the time, but you don't notice it. It's like when you watch a movie as a child and then you go back and watch that movie 20 years later and you say, oh, look, like that famous actor is in the movie, because at that time you weren't paying attention for that. So the brain, it will help you if you tell it what to focus on, and it will say, hey, it will remind you, oh, look, someone just used that word that you're trying to study. And so often when I'm teaching people things, they will say, oh, look, like I noticed that in a conversation, or I heard that on the news or something. And it's because you're telling your mind to be aware of things like that. M. Safa says, hi from Italy, nice to see you there. Let's see. All right. Diego says, hiya people from Colombia. Bridget says, hello, my favorite teacher. Nice to see you there. Mohammed, thanks. Let's see. Dimitri, hello, everyone. Gansham says, what is the difference in until or till? Yeah, they're basically the same thing. Like till is just a faster way of saying it. All right. Rodrigo from Brazil. All right. Thanks. Hello. It's a good lesson. Thanks for sharing with us. Azar says, it is nice to attend from the beginning, and this did not happen to me today. Oh, no. Well, you can go back and watch the beginning of the stream anytime. Let's see. In Portuguese, pego a manha. Okay, I guess that means like getting the hang of something, or maybe not. I don't know. And Yusuf, I don't know what that sad face is. Let's see. I'm getting the hang of cricket. Yeah. So if you're learning a particular skill, and you will hear this again and again, oh, I'm getting the hang of it. And then you will learn not only the phrase, but you will also hear it used in different time periods. So I was getting the hang of it, but then I got worse. So let's say I was starting to learn a game like cricket. So maybe I went to a few practices. I was getting the hang of it, but then I stopped. So then I stopped going and I forgot how to play the game, or I forgot how to do something. Let's see here. But yes, let me know again if you have any questions about this or anything related really to anything. Anything I can help you with your English. Let's see. Lewis says, hi, teacher. You are the best teacher in YouTube. Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure. I don't know about the best, but I do what I can. Let's see. My first live with you. Thanks a lot. I prefer an associate method like yours to learn a language. Yes. Basically, what I'm doing is helping you learn English like you learned your first language. It's the same process. And so a young child, like, they hear getting the hang of it, and they're not logically trying to figure out, like, what do you mean you're getting something and hanging? Like, they're not really thinking about it that deeply. What they're trying to understand is this collection of sounds, and when do we use that collection of sounds? So that's what language is to a child. They're not thinking about it logically. I could say blah, 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 blah. And if I always say that at a certain time, like if right before I eat, I say blah, 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 or, something like that. And then the child will associate that, they will make that connection between the situation, so when something happens, and what people say. And so what I'm telling you is you can remind your brain, hey, like, give me more examples of this particular word or phrase. And you can also say, hey, like, what do people say in this situation? What are some other things people say? Because you could hear, like this one, I'm getting the hang of it, or you could hear you're doing it well, or you're improving, or you're getting better at something. There are lots of ways that you could express that thing. All right, let's see. All right. I agree with Lewis. I don't know what you're agreeing to. Let's see. Receiver says, hi there. I was late again. Sorry. It's okay. You don't have to apologize for that. I never let people know exactly when these are going live. I just kind of go live. The next live video, when will that be? I think probably this Thursday, so 3 days from now. What is that? 72 hours from now. So I guess my Thursday in Japan. So it should be then here. Mabel, hello, wonderful teacher. Nice to see you there. And Sensilo61, if Simone is getting hanged, can I say his getting the hang of it? You could, like, people have used that joke in movies or things like that. Oh, like he's getting the hang of it. What movie used that recently that I saw? Somebody was getting hanged and a guy was making that joke. Or there are other jokes that you could make in a similar way. Is there some schedule for your YouTube classes? And thank you for the current one, says Dimitri. Not usually, but often I will be doing either Monday or Thursday, but I don't announce it anywhere. I just go on. But if you're not here for the live video, you can still watch it later. Christmas Eve is around the corner, and a COD event too. I hope you're learning something in college, because it sounds like you should be just studying game design or just Call of Duty or something like that. Armando says, besides, or you could say aside from, or just beside, or like besides Japanese, how many languages do you speak or know? I know a little bit of Spanish, but not very much. I couldn't like go to, I remember actually when I was in Colombia a few years ago, and trying to speak with people was really frustrating for me, because I couldn't, I could just ask people, like, I don't know, ¿Dónde está el baño? Or whatever. There wasn't much I could say, just like, what time is it? And, asking for food. And so I can understand some Spanish, but I wouldn't be able to speak it very well. Spanish is so cool. I love it. Yes, it's an interesting language. I would like to know it more, but my problem was that when I was in learning languages in school, everyone was, or my teachers, they were all teaching the traditional way and just giving me a bunch of rules to memorize. But because I didn't really understand what I was learning, of course, I didn't have any confidence to speak. And so I remember some random words, or I hear things, or I like the sound of it. So I had actually an exchange student from Chile who is still a friend of our family. Is a woman named Marcela. So she stayed with us in high school, and she would kind of teach me some Spanish words and phrases, and I only remember like Los Estados Unidos de Mexico. When she was from Chile, but I just liked the sound of that. So we were talking about that. But I like the sound of it. And I did some construction many years ago. Well, not really construction, it was like home remodeling. And I worked with basically they were all like a Spanish speaking crew, except for one guy. Actually, yeah, one guy, he spoke English a little bit. So that was fun. But anyway, in those same situations, when I think back now, it's the same idea of I really had to pay attention for when people are doing something and what are people saying during that. And that's how I get to understand the language as a first language rather than trying to think about it through translations. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do here. All right, let's see. XD again says there's a question needed to be filled in my book. There are now in a position to govern the country in either the Free Democrats or Green Party. There's a question needed to be filled in my book. There now. I don't know. Are you asking me a question? I don't understand what that's referring to. The Free Democrats or the Green. What country are you in? Are you in Taiwan? Where are you located? All right, let's see. I have to leave this live stream. It's okay. Don't feel bad about that. Don says, how can I use the word characteristics, sir? I watch a lot of examples and I still can't get it or feel confident to use it. Very good. So characteristic is just talking about, it's a way of describing something. So a characteristic of this marker is that it's red. A characteristic of this marker is that I can write with it. So it's a way of describing something. So you can describe something physically, like a characteristic, again, of the marker. It's like long and thin, or it's light or heavy. Or I could talk about a mental or figurative characteristic of something. So a characteristic of like a friend of yours, maybe they are a very happy and kind person, or maybe they are mean, or maybe they like candy, or maybe they don't eat meat or something. All of those ways of describing things are just characteristics. And so this is where we also get a character from. So a character is like a person like me or my daughter. So my daughter, we can say, oh, she's an interesting character, or she has many interesting characteristics if I want to describe specific things about her. So I can talk about how she looks. So she has kind of brownish green eyes. She's got long brown hair. She likes to wear shirts. So those are characteristics. Those are different ways of describing something about her. But I can also talk about she is a very lively and fun and energetic girl. So she likes to run around and play and like climb on me. So those are all characteristics of her. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's really just a way of describing something, and then you can have really a description of anything. You could have a characteristic of a town or a city. So a characteristic of like Nagasaki is it's got good seafood because it's right on the water. A lot of people get good seafood over here. It's also mountainous, so there are lots of mountains or kind of hills around Nagasaki as well. Hopefully that makes sense. But you notice, like, I want to keep giving you examples until you're like, now I get it. But the point is not to repeat the word over and over. It's to get a wide range of examples and think like, okay, like what has a characteristic? Where might we hear that word? What does it describe? Okay. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. I think here. All right. Let's see. Tom says until, prior to, up till. Yeah. So if you want to have, there are again, yes, different ways of describing this whole time period. So if you have a time period like up until, this time period, or until, or till. Those are all different ways of describing the same thing. So we have the situation. Situation is describing a time period up until this period here. So this point in time, we can talk about doing something from here to here, or until here, or up to here. They're all different ways of describing the same thing. XD again, the textbook gives you some vocabularies and some sentences. You got to fill them and match. Does that work well? Oh, you mean as an example or an exercise for learning this way? Sure, you can try to get more examples. The important thing that a lesson should be doing is helping you understand something. And often you will still need more examples to feel very comfortable and confident, because there really are lots of different ways where or different times when you would hear something and you would still not feel very confident about using it. So you could hear something like even like the present tense or the past tense, and how do I use it in a different, some other tense, something like that. And so hearing that same thing again and again and again in lots of different ways is going to help you understand that thing better. But yes, you can certainly create your own sentences. Like you could do that with ChatGPT. I actually just did an experiment with ChatGPT saying like, hey, can you give me some examples of sentences with madeni and made? And it actually gave me the wrong thing. I was surprised about that. But anyway, it's possible if you get those, and in a textbook, it should be correct language, whatever that is. Mohammed says, sir, I'm from Sudan. Please teach me the difference between past simple, past perfect. I'm getting confused. So it's better, that's a bigger topic rather than focusing on like a particular situation. But you would get, if you look at my channel, you'll find videos where I cover those already. So if you just search that particular thing, like past simple, past perfect, you'll find a video series about teaching those grammar points. Lewis again, hi teacher, cars need a tune-up. I wonder if the exact phrase I can use with a friend when he or she has been without a boy or girlfriend for a while. You could say that in a joking way, but a tune-up implies that there's it's kind of broken down. Where if you haven't been with haven't had some fun or whatever, if that's what you're talking about, it's a little bit different. But you could say, yeah, you need I don't know, it would be better to use that if a friend of yours is usually in good shape, so he's usually exercising, but then for a month maybe he starts eating some not so good food, and you look at him and you're getting a little bit fat, man. You need a tune-up, that kind of thing. So you would take that example, but I understand what you're trying to say. I think a better, a car analogy would be I don't know, you need your tires rotated or something. So you need something, you need a kind of a refresh. So you're not broken down, you're just we need to stretch your legs a little bit. You need to get back in the game. All right, so there are different ways of expressing that. Again, you want to describe a friend of yours. This is a situation. A friend of yours hasn't had a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever. And then how might we say that in a joking or casual way? But yeah, you could you could say something like that. Actually, some of them have translations behind the words. Yeah, so when people use translations, or you see translations in textbooks, they're doing that because they're not actually teaching you and helping you understand the word. So that when you should be able to understand everything all in English, because that's how natives learn the language also. And people think, I had some argument with somebody where they were saying you can't learn a second language. You need to use translations for that. And I didn't get a good reason why you need that, because you didn't do that with your first language. Why would you need to learn that with the second language as well? It doesn't make any sense. All right, get to thank you, sir. God bless your daughter. Yeah, Both of my daughters are doing fine. So I tell more stories about Aria, like just because, she's been around longer, and she's older now, using things like, oh, I'm getting the hang of it. But it's interesting to watch my younger daughter, Noelle, who is almost 5 years old now. Her birthday is right after Christmas. That's actually why we gave her the name Noelle, which means Christmas. But she is starting to use more vocabulary, and it's interesting to hear the phrases she learns as well. But she's doing the same thing, where she looks at a situation and she's getting lots of examples of parents or other people saying things in those situations, and that's how she learns to use the vocabulary. Nora says, hi, teacher. I like your classes. I can understand you. Glad to hear it. Suzanne from Germany. I'm happy to see you live. Glad to hear it. Let's see. Ukyo Maru is the understandable, comprehensible. What is the difference between those? Well, let's think like if there's a difference. So I'm again thinking about this like a native would think about it. So if you have understandable versus comprehensible versus comprehend. Now, they can be used the same way. We can draw, this is a typical a Venn diagram where we're looking at like we'll just say this is understandable and this is comprehend. So there is overlap, and there are some times when they do not overlap. So this is why it's important to not just get like a definition of a word. You want to hear how they're used in different situations. So you might understand something like I say it, like I hear what you're saying. So can you understand me? Like if I'm giving a speech and I'm checking a microphone, can everybody understand me? All right. So they get it and they can hear what I'm saying, but maybe they don't actually comprehend what I'm saying. So people can so that's even like two different meanings of understand in the same sentence. So here, like to hear something and to like, yes, I like follow it logically. I understand what you're saying. I comprehend what you're saying. Here we're using it the same way. But comprehend typically means like a slightly more, it's basically only when you really, and I hate to use understand to describe it, but basically when you know something, you recognize it, you know that thing, and yes, like you do understand that. So this is not a clear explanation of understand versus comprehend, because often they are used interchangeably. So that's when we have this period or this point here. When I ask people like, did you understand what I said? Like, did you hear what I said? Do you recognize, you understand the meaning of what I said? Not only hearing it, because understand can mean like hearing. But this is like where we really like recognize something here when we comprehend something. Because I could hear something but not comprehend it. Like someone could speak to me in Chinese. I could hear them. It's like I understand they're saying something to me, but I don't comprehend what they're saying. I don't recognize that. I can't do anything with that information. It's like bad data that I can't do anything with. I don't understand it. So understand, I guess maybe like a better way to say it is like here's understanding, and like comprehension is kind of in here. Maybe that's a better way to express it, I think. And so you have like you could have like hearing something, but here is like you really understand it well, you recognize it, and you could do something with that information. So the same thing with a computer, all right? So I could give the computer some information. Maybe the computer doesn't understand that though. Like it recognizes information, but it can't do anything with that information, okay? But in general, people use understand. It's a more common word than comprehend. And even for language learning, like people talk about comprehensible input, but the reason like Dr. Stephen Krashen uses the word comprehensible input rather than like understandable is because the point is that you don't just hear the information, you're like, I get it. I like, yes, I got what you said, okay? So the whole point of being able to learn something like a native or understand it like a first language is that you're not trying to translate something, or you don't only hear the information, you recognize it like you got it. Yeah, I got what you said. All right. I didn't just hear it. I also understood it. All right. So you can understand something on both of these levels. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if I can keep talking about that more, but that's the basic idea. In general conversations, you might say something like this writing is incomprehensible. Like I don't understand what it means. So I read the words and I might recognize the words, but I don't understand the whole meaning. What are you saying? So that's why I use a different language example. So if someone is speaking Thai or Swahili or French or I don't know, any other language to me, I might understand, I understand they're saying something, to grasp or perceive, So those are other different ways of saying that. So it's different than just when you understand something where you just I recognize something or I hear that thing. Let's see. And even wakaru is in Japanese is that's also a little bit vague. Let's see, I'm not only playing COD, but also a lot of games which are English version, Activision, Blizzard. I think I've never used the word comprehend. So it's more of a technical word. I wouldn't use that in a conversation. So if someone says, "Hey, do you comprehend what I'm saying?" I would say, "Yeah, I guess I understand what you're saying." But I would never say I comprehend that. But in a more academic or professional situation in that environment, you would hear that phrase or that more. All right, so it's comprehensible. You understand what I'm talking about. Gotcha. All right, Vicky says, thank you for going live. Back then when I just started learning English, I learned 5 words per day. With the 2 sentences, I could use them. Very useful. Yep, just get more examples. Armando says, what is the meaning of box when talking about money? For example, it costs $100. You mean, so that's you mishearing. So you heard something, but you didn't comprehend it. So you understood something, you heard it, but you didn't comprehend it. You're talking about bucks. This is a slang or casual term for dollars, American money. So we might have $5 or $5. There's lots of different ways of describing money. So we could say frog skins. That's kind of not very common, but you will hear it. Or cash or moolah. Some bucks, some dollars, $5. So be careful if you see something like that. It sounds like $5. We need to get you to improve your listening. If you'd like to do that, you should get Frederick. Click on the link in the description below this video to get that. Let's see, anybody else here? Dimitri says, can you speak a couple of phrases with your normal speed, not lecture speed? And now I can understand you clearly, but I'm wondering about natural speed things. Sure. What would you like me to talk about? I'll give you an example of something, Dimitri, but tell me something either that you know about or that you don't know about. And I can talk a little bit about either of those things, and we can test you that way. Gabriel says, is it used, I got it instead of understand? Yep. So remember, to get something is I received that. So I could get a physical marker, or I could get an idea. I could come to understand that thing. So you understand something, and you are trying to tell me or teach me that thing, and now I understand that thing too, if you express it very understandably, comprehensibly. So bucks equals dollars. Yes, Frederick is great. Awesome. Now I got a buck. Yeah. So $1 is $1. So this is $5, but if we only have one, $1, $1, that'll be $2. $1, $2, $3, $4. Raphael says, Victor says, good evening. Nice to see you there. Oh, that's right. It's evening on that side of the world. Raphael says, Professor, do you speak other languages? Just English? Hug from Brazil here. So I speak Japanese, but nothing other than that. So my class will be over in 10 minutes. Please stop speaking both English and Chinese. Mohammed says, my understanding is very hard. My English has some, I don't know what that word is. How to remember words if I memorize more words. Yeah, you don't want to talk about trying to force yourself to remember things by reviewing them. I have a whole memory program about that. It's called How to Remember Any English Word. But it basically, it uses your brain the way your brain wants to memorize information. The basic idea is that instead of trying to force yourself to remember things or to use translation, you need to create categories in your mind, and you can have an infinite, theoretically, like an infinite number of those things. So if you already have the word computer in your mind, like as an example in your native language, then you would think of a laptop computer or a desktop computer, something like that. So this is what businesses do when they create a new category of something, and then their product becomes the first or number one product in that category just because they created a new category. And that becomes more memorable. So you might have 10 different companies that are selling computers, but you remember the company that's selling the first desktop computer or the first tablet computer or whatever. Let's see. Mom had said, oh, okay, I got that one already. What about nickels? Like the money, like coins? I don't know if there's a specific word for nickels, but you can Google that to see, like look up slang for money or coins or change or whatever. All right, Demetrius says, example, what about worst shop in your city? The worst shop in my city? The worst shop in my city. I don't even know how I would talk about that. All right, but I'll kind of explain what I'm thinking the way I would normally speak. So this is how I normally speak English if I'm talking with a friend of mine. So somebody asked me about what's like the worst shop in Nagasaki, but I don't even know what that would mean. Like what is like the worst shop? Like how do you, like worst in terms of what? Worst in terms of quality or selection or like bad service? I don't know. That's an interesting question. I never really thought about that before. I also don't really have like, I guess, a favorite shop. You know, I might pop into like a couple different places, but I don't know. It kind of depends on the mood I'm in. I'm trying to think if I had like a bad, I don't know, like most of the places I go to, it's like actually a pretty good experience for places. Yeah, I can't say that I have, yeah, it's actually interesting. I can't even like speak about it as fast as I normally would because I don't have a clear idea of what that would be. Does that make sense? So I'm not, I don't know, if I'm trying to think about what would be the worst shop in Nagasaki, I don't know. That's an interesting question though. So here I was speaking a little bit faster, but not using, I don't know, so much, I don't know, like I said, like pop into, but yeah, not so much in like slang or idioms, that kind of thing. But that's typically how I would be speaking with people. All right, do you guys use a grand for 1,000? Yes, we do. So that'd be like 5 grand or 10 grand, 5,000. Hello, teacher. I have a pronunciation question. It's the same pronunciation as dying and dying. What about the meaning was different? Yes, you mean like dying, like dying, but also dyeing your hair? Yes, that's the same pronunciation. If you'd like to learn more about that, again, let me put Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below this video to learn more about that. So Frederick will teach you all about pronunciation. You can listen to the difference between words or hear how they're similar or exactly the same, but maybe have a different spelling. It's got over 2,000 words and sentences in the app. Suzanne says, know why Chinese and Japanese are awesome and give a lot of information. Let's see. Santa says, I'm totally confused when the verbs be, been, being, not, am, is, are. Let's see. Do you have any special lessons on that? Yeah, watch my beginning. I think it's called the Best Beginning English Grammar playlist on our channel. So just go to like search grammar and you will find that. Just look at the playlists that I have on the channel and you will find examples of all that. So this is where I take people who know English and I teach them all like English all in English, and there it's organized by difficulty, but we cover like all those different grammar points there. Let's see. Also, Frederick will help you learn grammar as well. XDL, let me imitate my English teacher. Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk about blah, 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 then switch to Chinese. Can anyone translate this sentence in English? Wow, amazing. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Raphael says, Japanese doesn't even cross my mind. It's very difficult. How long does it take to learn the basics of Japanese or Chinese? I know there are people that say languages, like some languages are difficult and other languages are not difficult, but I would disagree just by looking at children learning languages. So like little kids in Japan, they learn to speak at the same rate as little kids in the United States. So if I look at my daughter in Japan, or both of them, and my sister's kids in the United States learning English, like, you wouldn't say that one language is more difficult than the other. The only difficult thing is how people teach it. And often people teach badly in regular schools, like XDL is talking about. And so if you're learning a language as a second language, which is what people typically do, then yes, like, it's really difficult for you to try to learn something through your language already. So I gave the example before about these different categories in your mind. And that's so I talk about that, like that's in Fluent for Life and in our memory training. So the way your mind works is you can think about it. So this is your brain here. You have different spaces in your mind, and you can create new spaces. But when you have something in a space already, like the word computer, so let's say like the company IBM makes the first computer, just as an example. So IBM makes computer. So when you think of the word computer, you think of IBM, because IBM created this idea. So before you had no idea about computer. IBM, the company, creates a computer, and they also create in your mind the idea of something called a computer. And they create the idea, and they fill that idea with themselves, their product, their thing of a computer. All right? And so another company, let's say they also, like, we'll just call this like a BCD company, and they also make a computer. And if they've done nothing different, it's just another computer, they're trying to get into that space in your mind where the idea of computer is, but they can't, because it's already filled by computer from IBM. So you can't try to like remember it. And if instead of thinking about these as companies, you can think about them as different languages. So if you learn the word computer in English, and then you try to learn the word for computer in a different language, like there's already a space for that. And that's what makes it more difficult for people to try to just force yourself to remember some information like that. But if BCD company or something, or like in Japanese, you learn it, or whatever your language is, if you learn something in a different language and you create a new category for that thing, you can fill that like a laptop computer. So instead of this kind of computer, like IBM would make a mainframe computer. So you see those big boxes in a room, IBM makes that. But then this other company makes, here's a laptop computer. And now you can fit the word computer into your brain, and it's connected with this idea of a laptop computer. So that will enable you to learn and remember that word. So instead of trying to you don't want to force words into, it's like a car in a parking space. So there's already a car parked here. You need to find an open space or create an open space by creating a new category of thing. And so that's what I teach people to do in that memory training. But anyway, so when you're learning new words like this, it's important to think about how we can fit things in and remember things by categories rather than trying to translate them. Okay. Let me see here. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Anyway, so the point about that, I kind of lost track there, but the point is that in my estimation, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see any language that's more difficult than any other, because kids all learn them at the same rate. And so if I'm in Japan learning English, or Japan learning Chinese, or Japan learning whatever, if I'm learning it as a first language, then I should realistically be learning it at the same rate. It's not like Chinese should take 10 years, but French would take 5 years. Now, the only difference, like when people talk about what's What's different or difficult is if there's something already about the language that you already know. So if you're trying to learn an additional language, like so me as a native English speaker, if I'm trying to learn French or Spanish, those languages should be easier for me because I already know some of the words, or maybe the grammar construction works more similarly to how I already think in English. So in that case, like the language is easier, but it shouldn't really matter if you're teaching someone as a first language. So if I learn, like, if I know the word computer in English, then if I hear like Computadora or whatever, I think that's the Spanish word, Computadora. If it's not, pardon me, I'm not a Spanish teacher. But the point is, like, if I hear something and I hear the same word, but it's slightly different or the pronunciation is a little bit different, then I would probably be able to understand that thing. But it would be more difficult for me as a native English speaker to try to learn Chinese through English. So that's where I want people to understand there's nothing difficult about Chinese by itself, like any more than like English is difficult, like because children learn both of those languages at the same rate. So if someone could tell me there is a language where kids don't learn to speak until they're 10 years old, then that would change my mind. But other than that, I've not seen that example. Computador in Portuguese and Computador in Spanish. Okay, all right, I was correct. Glad to hear it. Computadora. Yeah, I like the way that sounds. Like Univision. I like that. Like in English we would say like Univision, but it sounds so much. It's more fun in Spanish. Univision. Let's see. All right, Juan says hello from Tennessee. Sir from Dubai. Let's see if I got all those. All right. Let's see. Trekelin. That's an interesting name. I love learning English with a native teacher. Hello from Indonesia. Nice to see you there. Bob says, I've been studying English on Duolingo for 2 months now. I feel that my comprehension and pronunciation have improved significantly. Glad to hear it. Hopefully that prepares you. Let's see. Anonymous says, hello, Suzanne. I almost died by hitting my head against a door due to a sickness. That's interesting. Vinicius says, hello, Drew. I have a friend who is interested in learning English. He's a beginner and can't understand much. What's your advice for him? He's having trouble once he doesn't know enough vocabulary. I would give him Frederick. Tell him to download the app. Get Frederick. He can start. He will teach himself English in English the same way a native would, and also to watch my beginning English grammar playlist. I think actually a lot of adult learners who know a lot of English, often they will have a good vocabulary, but they will still make basic mistakes. And so they will have, especially with basic grammar or something like people still ask me questions about basic grammar, prepositions, when do they use something. And it's because people have not had enough examples of things that they don't really feel very confident about that. So they're trying to think about a rule rather than get an example of something or try to understand when people use something and then get lots of examples of that thing. We request you to prepare lectures, poems, and more vocabulary as PDF. All right, well, I request you to get Fluent for Life because all that stuff is in there. There's no poetry in that, but you will find everything else there. You can find that in the link in the description below this video. Juan says, I'm curious about why sometimes the sounds like D and sometimes da. Yeah, it depends on the situation, and this is what you learn about pronunciation. So I've given this example before, the planet, and I can't write and talk at the same time. Planet of the apes. So this movie or the book or whatever, The Planet of the Apes. So this is the same word, the and the. The Planet of the Apes. The Planet of the Apes. Why do we do that? Because the way the words are connected here, this is the important thing, not just the word by itself, but how the words are connected and blended together. So if we say the planet of the apes, often we say the when we like something is very important, but typically the, especially like the planet, it's nice and easy to say. The planet of the apes. The apes. So if I say the apes is more difficult to say. the apes. It's like vapes. So we say the apes. All right. So again, rather than trying to learn what is the correct thing, you get lots of examples and you hear how that works. Okay? The planet of the apes. The planet of the apes. And remember that not everyone will pronounce things the same way. And I talked about this in my recent video about imprinting. So when people are learning a new language and they get one example from someone about a word or phrase, they might not, or they might feel that that's the way everybody does it when that's just one person's way of doing something. So I gave an example in that video of me going to it was like a Japanese funeral, kind of like a funeral service. And there were 2 candles on a table, and some people were using the top candle to light some incense, and some people were using the bottom candle. And I didn't know what the reason for that was, like why they have 2 candles or what that represents. And there are lots of situations like that where as we get more information, we feel more confident about something. So if someone told me, oh, the top candle is for family and the bottom candle is for not family, it's like, oh, okay, I got it now. But until I get that, like some kind of explanation or something where I comprehend, where I really understand, I completely understand what something is, then I won't feel confident talking about it. So I wouldn't feel confident explaining to someone, hey, this is how you light the incense at this, at the funeral service, because like it's not, I can't feel like certain about that. And so often people struggle to speak because they just don't feel confident and certain about their vocabulary. And it's really not your fault if you feel that way. It's just mostly people are learning English as a second language, and that's why they struggle to speak. Let's see. Oh no, I gotta sneeze again. We'll see if it comes back. Let's see. Juan says, all right, I think I answered that one. But yeah, just remember the word by itself might the pronunciation of a word will probably change depending on the other words around it. So I call this the one rule for pronunciation. We talk about this in Speak Like Me. What's the best TV show to improve English? Just something you're interested in, with examples of native speech, whatever that is. So you could watch, some people like learning about home improvement, or some people like watching a comedy show. It just depends on what you're interested in. Watch whatever you like. Santos says, I know nothing and I do not know anything are the same, but I ain't know nothing meaning. Well, that's I ain't know nothing, like I ain't know, yeah. It's an incorrect way of saying you don't know like anything at all. I ain't. So I ain't is not correct English, but people will use that. Hamado says, what city of US do you live, sir? I live in Nagasaki, Japan. I am from Chicago in the United States, though, but I don't live there currently. Victor, teacher, is it possible for you to explain to us what is the difference between the structures it's been a long time since and it had been a long time since? Well, you're talking about like 2 periods of time. So if I'm, and I covered this in a couple of different videos. It's also covered in Fluent for Life. But in general, if this is now, what were your examples? Like it has been a long time. Let's see. It's been a long time since, and it had been a long time since. Yeah. So if we're talking about like it has been, we're talking about until now. So it has been. So it has been a long time. Like we're still continuing to do something. So we're talking about from some period in the past and connecting that with now. So it has been a long time since I played tennis. So here on this day I played tennis. I played tennis, but I have not played tennis this whole time. So I have not. So it has been a long time, or it has been a while since I did something. It has been a while since I did something. But if you're talking about in the past, like it had been a while since I did something, but then like some other, we're talking about other points of time in the past. All right, so not one point of time in the past with right now. So if I had done something in the past, like from this point until this point. So let's say I'm 3 years old here and then I'm 10 years old over here. I did another video about this. I think if you look for the video I made about have, and I'm talking about like playing Mario or something, that was a few months ago. But it's the same idea. So I did something from this time until this time. So maybe like until this point, like I had not done it. I had not. But then like at this point I had done that thing. All right. So I had not, and then I had done that thing. But rather than cover that same information again, go watch that video. Okay. But that's the basic idea. So are we talking about something in the past, or are we talking about like something in the past connected with now? That's the difference. And so rather than trying to think about it logically, just get lots of examples of people talking about that. So a good way to do that would be like watching people talk about, I don't know, like their childhood or something. So I was 2 years old when I started playing the piano. And so I had played the piano for like 5 years or something. But yeah, let me not confuse you with more, because you can go just watch that video about have. I don't remember the exact name of it, but you should be able to find that. And I also maybe had a short video about that too. Let's see. All right, Tom's is the best show to improve English is Teacher Drew's classes. Well, you should think about my class as like part of a complete breakfast. This is a phrase, if you're living in the United States, you've probably heard that before. It's part of a complete breakfast. So part of a complete breakfast means like, they're selling you cereal, but you should also have, some other things with that. And so even in Fluent for Life, like Fluent for Life is not just a bunch of classes of me telling you things. You actually get to see natives having a real conversation. So lots of conversations, and then you hear lots of different examples of how other people would speak. So I know I can't be the only one to teach you. I have to have other people there that also prepare you for the other language you will hear. So you will hear people with different accents. You need to hear things at different times, different kinds of speakers. So as you get all that information, I'm part of that. So I'm helping you understand things. That's really the best thing I can do. I know how to teach people well and make things understandable, make the language comprehensible. And then you get lots more examples to really help you understand and feel confident about things from other people. Neil says, how many siblings do you have? I have 2. I have an older half-sister and a younger sister. Are there more examples of the word computer in the city? In the city. What do you mean in the city? Let me know what you mean. Mocking. I don't know what you mean. I don't know if you're telling a joke or something like that. Let me know though. Moa says, "Hi, thank you thank you." You could say thanks. So thanks a lot, and help us to understand English. It's my pleasure. All right. Azar says, my English was cut off for a little while. Oh no, I feel lost when the internet goes out. Yeah, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. I think I need to immigrate to a country where the internet does not cut out. Yeah. All right, you should speak Spanish too. Well, if someone can teach me Spanish the way I teach English, I'm happy to learn. All right, can someone explain to me IBM he talked about in the video? Well, the basic idea about that is that if you have a company, will make a product. But the product, if you want that product to be successful, you should really be creating a new company. So if I have like an even simpler idea, would be like red wine. So let's say the first company to make like a vineyard, the first company to make red wine, like, wow, they sell a lot of red wine. So they created the idea of red wine and also a product for that idea. So other companies, they try to copy that thing. They say, oh, we are going to make some red wine too. We also have like red grapes, and we can make some, or however you make red wine. So other companies will try to make red wine as well, and you'll get more bottles of things. But now it's harder for these companies to compete because this is the number one, the first red wine. I don't know what that actually is, but just as an example. So if you're trying to get people to remember red wine or something like that, you want to create the category of that. So another wine company, it would be smarter, unless they can make like, I don't know, like a new kind of red wine or something like that. You would want to make a different kind of wine, like a white wine, or I don't know, a black wine, or whatever. I don't know what different kinds of wines there are. I'm not a wine expert, but that if I were working for a wine company, that's what I would do. I would tell them, hey, don't make red wine. You have to make some kind of special other thing. Like here's like, we're going to call it something different. It's like, oh, this is a Chardonnay, or this is a Merlot, or this is a, whatever. I guess it's based on the names of the grapes. But the point is, this is how the human mind thinks. So the human mind thinks in terms of categories. So we have a space, and then we have a thing to put in that category. So for the IBM example, IBM, like people think of IBM, you don't have like an IBM laptop. They do make laptops, but they're not known for that. They're known for mainframe computers. And so if another company tries to make the same kind of thing, it will be more difficult for that company to succeed. Instead, you should be trying to make something different. So you create a new category, and that works the same way for language learning and remembering words. So that's what I teach in How to Remember an English Word. And I'll show you how to do that. Let's see. Planet der Affen. Oh, is that the name? That's the German name of it? I like that. The German, it's like the Planet der Affen. It's like a cool sounding name. What's funny is actually seeing, I like, there's a friend of mine out here, and we would talk about this movie Saw. So it was like a horror movie called Saw, and the main bad guy in that, he says like, I want to play a game. I want to play a game with you. He's talking. He's going to torture some people. I want to play a game. But the Japanese is very polite. It's like if you have time, like what could we think about maybe playing a game, kind of thing. So when you get the translation of something, it changes it as well. I just thought of that with that German example, but that was funny for me. Let's see. Alejandro says, greetings from Mexico. Nice to see you there. Frederick, is it an app for children? It's not just for children, but it helps you learn like a child. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to explain what Frederick does, because people look at the app and think it's for kids. But wouldn't you rather learn like a child than learn like an adult studying a textbook? And then people are like, okay, like I'll give it a try. So maybe I need to make Frederick look more like, because obviously kids use it as well, but lots of adults use it too. All right, lots of good questions and comments here, though. Hopefully that makes sense. But yes, if you'd like to learn more about Frederick, you can click on the link in the description below this video. Peng says, I don't feel like studying today. Yes, you shouldn't feel like studying any day, but you really can be learning like this. Like the way I'm teaching you, you don't have to study anything. You're just listening to my examples, and I get you fluent because I help you understand the language better. And when you understand well, you feel confident about speaking. Let's see, Gansham, some months ago after watching your videos, I downloaded Duolingo apps, but at the time I saw the learning process in that app was some kind of traditional learning media. I uninstalled it. Yeah, like you can get fluent with apps, but the app doesn't make you fluent. It's can you get enough examples of things, and those could come from apps, but often they do not. And even if you're learning something from an app, the text or app version of the language is much different than how people actually speak. So you still need to get examples of real people speaking to feel confident about understanding those things in real situations. All right, Sando says, I also seen English movies saying you don't know nothing. Yeah, you don't know nothing is an incorrect way. Yes, so it's like, we call that a double negative. So instead of saying you, like you know nothing, they're saying like you don't know nothing, which means you kind of know everything. Or it's a weird way of saying that. But yes, this is a kind of casual and incorrect way of using the language. But if you're paying attention to the situation and not just the vocabulary, you can understand it like a native. So like, oh man, this guy, look at him. He's trying to build a bike, but he's got the wheels on top of the handlebars. Like he don't know nothing about making bikes. He don't know nothing about that. So I would like, the correct way is he doesn't know anything about making bikes. But again, if you understand the situation, even if you're hearing incorrect grammar, and you will hear incorrect grammar. I used incorrect grammar in this video. Did you hear it? So there is incorrect grammar, like there's lots of people who do that. There's lots of people who do that. It should be there are lots of people who do that. But you will hear that because it's faster and easier to say, and people know what I'm talking about. Of course, if I'm giving a speech and it's a professional thing, I would not say that. I would not say, yeah, there's lots of this or whatever. I mean, you will, even in a professional situation, you will hear that, but it's still incorrect English. Yes, Alejandro, if you have not tried Frederick as well, give it a try. Also, if you have tried Frederick and you like it, please leave a review. Go to the App Store and please leave a review for us so more people can find it. Don says, but how will someone do that when he doesn't even know one single word about the language? I mean, how will I learn it as a first one? For me, I couldn't apply this strategy until I became advanced. Well, you could learn it. Like you can learn another language as a first language if you have someone to teach you as a first language, or if you're getting that input and you know how to get it in the right order. So it's difficult just because most people don't teach that way. But I could give you I'll give you my quick Japanese example about this right now. Let's see here. Try to do something different for you guys here. I don't really have a lot of stuff in front of me. We'll just do my usual example. So I will teach you some Japanese right quick. All right? 1, 2, 3. これからね、もう日本語しか使わないね. So I only use Japanese now. Watch carefully. So I'm going to teach you Japanese as a first language. これはマーカー、マーカー、マーカー、マーカー、マーカー、マーカー。青いマーカー。黒いマーカー。黒いマーカー。赤。青、赤。黒。青、黒。赤。何これ？財布。黒い財布。黒いマーカー。黒い財布。財布。マーカー。財布。色はね。赤。赤。赤. Okay, that was a very quick lesson in Japanese as a first language. And even if you didn't understand everything I said, you probably had a good idea of like, oh, look at that. Like I understood exactly what you were talking about. Okay. Hopefully people are getting it there. So the word marker is coming from English. That's why we use like the Japanese, you would write it like this, like ma-ka, like that. Because it's actually like a borrowed foreign word. The marker. So from the English marker. So this the AR sound, marker, and the same thing here. That R sound is not in Japanese. So that's why they have to put that into a Japanese sound, like ma, and this is the elongation of that. So right now I'm even like kind of going into the language and teaching it a bit more than I should be just helping you understand it as a first language. Now sometimes explanations are helpful, but really if I can help you understand something as a first language, then you get it and you think, I got it. And the most amazing thing you can do as a learner of something is to discover that thing for yourself. So rather than a teacher just telling you what something means, if you figure that out, then you really remember that thing. And you think, oh, wow, now I figured out, wow, Drew was talking about these different colors over here. And because of the way I taught you, I was able to help you understand that in Japanese. So I didn't say aka means red. I just help you understand, like, look at that, like kuro, ao, aka, aka. Okay? And so you learn, your mind is trying to figure out the patterns and understand that without me telling you what that is. Okay? And that's when you become a fluent speaker. So you become fluent when you understand something very well rather than someone giving you a bunch of explanations about things or translations and trying to like make it logical for you. All right, let me see if anyone else. So yes, like you require a teacher to learn English as a first language or something, or if you know how to do that yourself. So you're correct that like at this level, like right now, you're learning English as a first language because I'm teaching you English as a first language. So rather than me, I'm not using Spanish or Portuguese or Thai or anything to teach you the language. So at this level, you already have learned a lot. But even if I'm starting to teach you English from the very beginning, like I do in that beginning grammar playlist here on YouTube. So if you go to my channel, you can find that beginning grammar playlist, and it will show you the first lesson I do in that is like eye, eyes, ear, ears, nose, ear, eye, nose, mouth, finger, fingers, fingers, fingers. So what am I teaching you? I'm teaching you vocabulary, and I'm also teaching you that in English, when we have more than one, the vocabulary changes. Isn't that interesting? So I don't want to give you a long explanation about like singular and plural. I just want to help you understand that. So my daughters, they know like, oh, like they understand singular and plural, but they don't know those words. Okay, so that's the difference between learning a language as a first language and learning it really through every other method. Let's see, Mom, it says there are 12 tenses in English. Explain for us next period. No. So people go looking. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that will just like give you explanations of grammar, but that's not how you learn. You could go get a textbook that it tells you every tense in English, and it's like, okay, here's the list of rules for all those things. But is that getting you fluent in the language? After reading that textbook or watching that video on YouTube, do you feel more confident and fluent about using the language? For most people, the answer is no. And that's because just helping you like understand something logically doesn't really help you feel confident that you really, truly understand something. All right, Victor, perfect. I was in a voice room yesterday, and it's been a while since I hadn't been in one. I got confused about which one to say properly. Thank you once again. Let's see, Suzanne over there with the, looks like confused faces, I'm guessing. Hey, sir, says Tofan. I was thinking about downloading Frederick for my 14-year-old son, but he just plays his games all the time, and his English is good. What should I do so he could focus on the English language? Just like let him play games with English then, or watch movies or whatever with some English in it. Let's see. Thank you, teacher, for the wonderful explanation, says Rafa. My pleasure. All right, am I too late? I only heard the red wine. Yes, we've been going for 80 minutes so far, but you can always go back and watch the replays of these, and that will help you understand. Alejandro says, I understand English a lot, and I can speak it with other U.S. friends on a basic level, but I think I need more vocabulary since I'm not fluent in a way to keep constantly talking like you, Drew. So you think you need more vocabulary. But what I keep telling people is that you don't need to know more. You just need to know the vocabulary you already know much better. So you need to be fluent in the vocabulary you already know. And this is one of the big problems people have with language learning is they think they need to know more words to get fluent. So the idea they have is like, let's just put this as like number of words I know. So you know 0 words, and we'll put this at, 10,000 words, 10,000 words. So each time you got all these words up here going all the way to 10,000. And so if, let's say you know, 400 words. And if you can't speak fluently here, so this is, let's say your ability to like actually speak is, it should be up here. Like this is your fluency level. So this is your vocabulary, and this is your ability to speak. So you should be learning like this. So a native speaker will learn this way. As they continue to learn more, their overall fluency is increasing. But if you look closely, what's happening is they're getting fluent in individual words and phrases. So they actually, it's like each of these things, like they have the ability to use the vocabulary fluently. So I talked in my previous video from last week about the different levels of understanding. So we have exposure, awareness, and ownership up here, where you really feel confident that you know something. And this works for individual words and phrases. So you can be fluent in one thing, but not fluent in something else. You can be good at talking about your work, but not be good about talking about things outside of work. All right. And this is because you get fluent in individual words and phrases. So what a lot of people think is that, okay, I need to keep learning more words. And at some point, like, 800 words or 1,000 words or 5,000 words, whatever that number is, you think at that point, ding, now I've become fluent. But it doesn't work that way, because you need to get fluent in individual words and phrases. If you can't say this fluently, then it doesn't matter how many words you know. You will still not be fluent in this word over here. So you have to get fluent in each of these things individually as you learn them. And this is why you don't need to learn more words to become a fluent speaker. If you can understand what I'm saying right now, you already know a lot of words. You just need to become fluent in that vocabulary. And you become fluent by understanding those things as a first language. So you really understand them very well. A lot of people, like, they know it. They've been exposed to that word, or they recognize it, but they don't have that highest level of confidence and fluency that really gets them to the confidence they need to speak. And so you're not waiting for a particular word count. You can be fluent, like I just taught you, a couple of words in Japanese. If we reviewed that a few times, you would become fluent in those few words. And then I just continue building on that until you get fluent in more things. That's how you get fluent. Okay? Let's see what time it is. All right, we're still all right. But this is the basic idea of how you get fluent. So you're not trying to learn more words. You just want to get fluent in the things that you learn. And that's why little children can have a small vocabulary but still speak fluently. But adults can have a large vocabulary but not speak fluently. Because it doesn't matter how many words you know. The number of words you know doesn't mean anything. It's just how fluent are you in the vocabulary that you have. So you could have a small vocabulary but know it well. Or you could have a big vocabulary and not know it well. That's why a lot of learners can understand what I'm saying, but they don't have the confidence to speak the way I do. But it's not about their vocabulary. It's just, do they understand the vocabulary, and do they really feel confident about using it or not? So again, you've got these different levels of understanding here. So you can know something, but do you really know it? Do you really feel confident about saying something? And if you're in a conversation and you understand, but you wouldn't feel confident saying that thing, you can tell where your level of understanding is. Okay? So don't worry about trying to learn more. Just get better at the things that you are already learning. Let's see here if I got that one. All right. Mika says, in Japanese, we can make a sentence without a subject. So my husband told me that I must use subject. 5W is important. Yes, so I'm guessing, Mika, if you are married to a foreigner, or maybe not, but yes, it's like in Japanese, I could just say like iku, like go. But if we would mean like I am going somewhere, like we call that a decontextual or a contextual language. So very like English, we have to say like I'm going. So even if everybody knows I'm going, I still say it's me who is going. That's part of how English works. But in Japanese, it's like you just understand the context of the situation. Like iku, iku. It's like, are you going? Yes, I'm going too. But yeah, so if you have to change like that understanding, but you develop that like rather than thinking about it logically, it's kind of the emotional connection you get from looking at situations and paying attention to what people say. So like my girls, my two daughters, when they're speaking English or Japanese, they switch from saying like I will do this, like they talk about themselves in the third person, like Arya will do this, where they would say it that way in Japanese. But in English they learn to say like I will do this instead of using their name like that. Drop a like and unlock the subscribe button. Yeah, no, YouTube makes it really hard. You have to like click a bell and call somebody and do lots of things to get a get a subscriber over here. I don't know why they make it so difficult. Thank you, teacher. Frederick, glad to hear it. Just drop a like. Yeah. So aoi marker. Yeah. So if we're writing that in English, it would be like aoi. So just ao by itself is blue, and aoi becomes like if we're attaching that to something. So ao, just the color, and aoi car, if I were to use it in English like that. Let's see. German is confusing in this case. Ears is spoken like ears. That means yours. Yep. Raphael says, sometimes it is hard to understand news in English. Yeah, a lot of that is because people don't know the vocabulary, because they're using some technical vocabulary that people aren't used to. Hello, teacher. I'm here watching your live from Brazil. Actually watched... There's a good video of, maybe you can find it, but it's a reporter. So he's doing the kind of news voice. And he's like, so I just saw this video today, but I'm sure you could find it on YouTube. If you look up like news reporter gets like a bug in his mouth or something. So he's like, hello and welcome to this, he's speaking kind of like a news reporter, and then a fly or something gets in his mouth. He's like, God damn it, man, I got a fly in my mouth. And he starts like, it's a perfect like contrast between the professional reporter English and the everyday speaking English. You could see both of those things. Let's see here. If I'm pronouncing it, Idedo. Martins Braga. Yeah, it sounds like are you from Brazil? Let's see. Yeah, okay, you are watching from Brazil. Whenever I see like a bunch of names, I either think like Brazil or the Philippines. Tamuri, nice to see you there. Hi. Let's see. Sandoz, watched your daughter videos teaching phrasal verbs is the correct sentence, or watched your daughter and you're teaching. Oh, you can say, well, there are different ways to say it. It's not like just one correct sentence, but you could say, I watched a video of you teaching your daughter or teaching your daughters. I watched a video of that, or I watched a video of, let's see, like your daughter's being taught. You could also say that. There are different ways. So I saw a video of you with your daughters teaching phrasal verbs. There are different ways you could say it. Vinny, I've just played Frederick. Your app is awesome. Glad to hear it. Please leave us a review. Go to the App Store and please leave us a review. All right, Cozy B gives us a thumbs up. Hi, teacher says Jungle Stories. Let's see, how to know idioms and phrasal verbs while watching a TV show or movie. Sometimes I confuse about how to know idioms and phrasal verbs. Well, I wouldn't worry. Like if you ask a native speaker what is the idiom and what is a phrasal verb, they would probably not be able to tell you that, because they're not thinking about the vocabulary in that way. They're just thinking is like what is the situation and what vocabulary do we use for that? But they probably wouldn't know the name phrasal verb or idiom. Like a lot of natives would know the word idiom, but not many would know phrasal verb. But you can recognize the patterns for those, and idiom is just some vocabulary like kick the bucket, where it means to die, but like the words don't like have an obvious connection that people would understand. And a phrasal verb is typically something like to spin out, or to stand up, where we have a verb and a preposition. But again, natives would not be explaining it to you that way. So your goal is not to find idioms or phrasal verbs. Your goal is to understand what something means and understand it like a native if you want to use it fluently. All right, Alejandro says, I understand your explanation about not needing to learn too much vocabulary to gain fluency, but how don't get too repetitive on words like speaking English? Well, you will begin to expand to contrast with this, where people think they need to just keep learning more and more words to get fluent. What I'm suggesting is you begin like a small unit of whatever this vocabulary is, and you become very, very confident because you know that vocabulary so well, because you've heard it in different ways from different people. You know how to use it. And then you begin expanding on that vocabulary as you become more comfortable. But my point is that a lot of people are trying to learn more before they actually feel very confident and comfortable about whatever that basic vocabulary is. So it could be basic or it could be more advanced, but the point is people are learning things that they don't really feel confident about using. So if you learn something, but you don't really feel confident about using it, then you're kind of wasting your time. You will understand, but if you want to speak, you should know that vocabulary very well. So as you learn more, then you can begin expanding into other things. And what happens is that you will find like an example of a word or a phrase, and then you're still connecting this word or phrase just like this. So you learn something, you learn a new phrase, like what's something we learned today? What did I say? Oh, getting the hang of it. So you're getting the hang of it. So you learn, oh, I'm getting the hang of it means like I'm understanding something well, I'm doing it better, I'm performing better, and I use it when I'm doing something better. So if I'm learning how to give a presentation, or I'm trying to like ride a bike or something like that, oh, I'm getting the hang of it. I'm learning to do something better. So I have the vocabulary and I know when I'm using it. So I've understood that vocabulary and I can use it, but also I might hear someone else describe that same situation in a different way. And that's how I expand my vocabulary. So an example for me in Japanese, like, or even just an English example. So I was talking with my accountant out here who is Japanese, and I'll give you the English version of this story. But she said, oh, like, when shall we meet? And shall we meet at the head of the month? So we don't say the head of the month in English, or I've not really heard people using that. We would say at like the top of the month, or like at the beginning of the month, or the start of the month. So if you're looking at a calendar, so she was saying like, oh, it's like the head of the month, like maybe the first week of the month. All right. And so I learned like in English, someone might say, oh, let's meet at like the start of the month. Or someone else says, let's meet at the beginning of the month. Or someone else says, let's meet early in the month. And here it's like, oh, because I understand what they're talking about, they're using different vocabulary to describe the same situation. Okay? They're learning, and this is how you will expand your vocabulary as well. So don't be too eager just to learn more vocabulary if your goal is speaking. So you will, if you start doing this, I promise your vocabulary will increase faster over time. But at the beginning, you're still like, oh, okay, I should spend more time with the vocabulary to really understand it. But that's where you hit this point here. You start to learn like a native, and wow, look at that. You really get fluent very fast. But it takes a little bit more time at the beginning because you're spending more time on that vocabulary. Remember that natives, they take a long time to figure words out when they're young, but then they start reading it or start learning that thing, and then they will understand the vocabulary and be able to use it fluently. Oh, look at that. There goes Brett. Nice to see you there. See how much time do we have left? We got a little bit of time left. If you have any questions, Brett, let me know, and I'll be here to answer those for you. XDL, water, sir. No corns. A P here, man. It located. I'm trans waiter. I have no idea what. Yeah, from Family Guy. Let's see. Pull the pin. Santos says the two sentences I've given above are correct way of saying or incorrect English. I forget what exactly you said, but I don't remember now. That was the one asking about different ways of my daughter or me. Like, let's see. Where were those? Oh, okay, I watched your daughter videos watching phrasal verbs is the correct sentence, or I watched your daughter and you teaching phrasal verbs. Well, both of those would be incorrect, like for describing what like the situation. So the better thing is just I watched a video of you teaching your daughter's phrasal verbs or teaching your daughter phrasal verbs. Okay, oh, looks like we're almost at the end. All right. Family Guy never leaves anyone alone. That's true. Vinny says, let your hair grow, Drew. Thanks, Drew, for your explanation, says Alejandro. All right, well, look at that. We got to the end of the chat over here. Well, if anybody has any questions, I'll leave it open for one more minute as I wrap this up. That is a good way. Another example of this here. So I've given, do you understand the situation? I've talked for a while. I'm explaining something now. We are concluding. So I could say, I will conclude. Or I will finish, or I will wrap up. To wrap something up. So it's like you can imagine a present. We've got a little marker here, and now it's time to go. We're going to wrap that up. We're going to finish. So remember, when you're trying to learn vocabulary, the point is not to just learn as much as you can. You really want to understand that vocabulary well. Okay, you want to understand that vocabulary as much as possible until you want to learn it until you feel confident about using it. Because if you don't feel confident about using it, then you're not really fluent in that vocabulary. Okay, and the point of this video was to talk about seeding your mind. So if you're looking for specific examples, as soon as you start focusing on something, you will notice those examples in the real world, especially if you're just getting lots of English content already. So maybe you're watching movies or TV shows or something, but you will get examples of the kinds of things you want to know more about. You will notice those things if you tell your brain to focus on them. Okay. All right, appreciate your efforts as XDL. Let's see, you should make a video with your daughter again. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Alejandro says, could you please explain the various uses of wrap up? Well, in this usage here, like I might take a sandwich and wrap it up. I might take a present and wrap it up. I might take, let's see, any kind of physical thing I can wrap up. But we can also talk about, like I'm using it here, to conclude something. So it's like I begin by opening something up or opening up the conversation, like I'm opening up a present. Now we're going to begin talking about something, and now we are finished. It's time to wrap that thing up, to close that, and then we will finish the conversation. All right. Let's see. Drew, fluency is the main problem. How to improve it alone? Again, you have to just understand more like a native speaker. That's the whole point of this video. So watch my most recent videos. If you just watch those, you will get the idea of learning English as a first language rather than trying to learn it through your native language. But that's how you get fluent, even by yourself. You don't get fluent by repeating things to yourself or to other people. You get fluent by understanding the language well. Because even if you are with other people, even if you have speaking opportunities, if you feel too shy to speak, then you're not going to say anything. So just having people to speak with doesn't help you get fluent. You have to feel confident because you know the vocabulary very well. And then you can do that by yourself. So after you learn and you feel confident about vocabulary, then you speak. That's how you get fluent. Let's see. Where can I learn modern derogatory? What does that mean? You mean like cursed words or whatever? You just Google that. Let's see. Definitely better than my English teacher, one of the best on YouTube, the GOAT. Well, glad to hear it. Don says, thank you for your explanation, sir. I'm going to say hello to Frederick. Yes, please do. And remember, leave us a review. If you get Frederick, download the app on the link or from the link in the description below this video. M.I. Chen, I am from Taiwan. You're a good teacher. When you start your live stream, usually I always miss the most of your stream. Remember, you can go back and just watch the replays of these. So unless you have specific questions, you'll get the same benefit from the video. But also specific, I don't have specific scheduling, but the next one should be, I can't guarantee it, but probably it should be this Thursday. That would be, I don't know what day that is. But so right now it is Monday morning Japan time. So Monday or Thursday morning Japan time, I will have that video around the same time. So around 10 a.m. Thursday morning Japan time. So around the same time. Ganjam, do you like hash brown potatoes for breakfast? Yeah, sometimes. I don't make those personally, but if they are available, I'll eat them. Sandra says, please explain the infinitive and infinitive difference. watch my videos on basic grammar. It will explain all that and help you understand it like a native. Remember, if I just like explain like, oh, this is an infinitive and this is whatever, like you're probably not going to remember that thing very well. You need to get many examples, and that's more than we're covering in this video. All right, thanks for the explanation. Let's see, thanks for the explanation. Everybody's getting it. All right, Brett says, in case we have not very strong basic understanding of English, would you recommend we dismiss the new fancy vocabulary when we come across it in Fluent for Life lessons? I would focus on the specific, so Brett is a member of Fluent for Life. I would focus on the specific vocabulary, I mean, it's not like fancy so much, it's more the commonly used but native vocabulary. So the kinds of things that you would find in the phrase builder and fluency and the so that like that vocabulary, focus on that. So you don't, there will obviously be way more new words and phrases that you will hear, but I specifically chose that vocabulary. So in the Fluency Corner and Phrase Builder videos. So that's the kind of like advanced, what you would call some fancy vocabulary, but spend more time with the grammar. So of the mistakes that I've seen you make, like I would spend more time with the grammar focus and time traveling. But again, what I'm talking about in this video is seeding your mind with those specific things. So at in the conversation for each of those masterclass videos, there are lots of things that will hit your brain, but I'm specifically preparing you for certain vocabulary because that's what I want you to focus on for that lesson. So it's not about like you could focus on different things. Like we could even have a different grammar point. We could make 10 different grammar videos that cover different topics for the same video. But I'm specifically focusing on one thing because it's a good idea. We get lots of examples of it for that particular video. So those are the things I would focus on. Just like follow the program. If there's anything you don't get, you can go to the index. And that will tell you the specific grammar point that's used in all of the lessons, and think about that. So I think your issue is more about focusing on basic grammar, and I would focus on that first. But you can get that from the index and then go through those lesson sets that cover that information. Let's see. A receiver would like to talk in real life. Well, you got lots of people to talk with. You can find people all over the place. Ilder, nice to see you there. I'm a silent spectator. Well, you're speaking now. Let's see. Claudio says, hello. How could I use the word endurance? Endurance just refers to like your power or your ability to continue doing something. So I've been speaking for 100 minutes. So I have endurance for like 100 minutes. But now I'm getting tired. My endurance is like weakening over here. But so that's it. You're talking about enduring something to be able to continue doing that thing. Let's see. Jungle Story. Drew, are tenses important to learn first or start speaking English? Well, yes. The point is to be correct, to communicate correctly, because when we speak with people, we have information we're trying to give to that person or that information we're getting from somebody else. So being correct is the most important thing. If you say the wrong thing, like you say, oh, I need 10 feet of string, but you say, oh, I need, 10 meters or something. That's way different. That's like 3 times the length of string. And so we want to communicate correctly, and being correct is the important thing. And if you're thinking about like, well, do I need to learn like grammar or pronunciation or something like that? Like all of these things are actually together in the language when you learn the right way. So I would pay attention more for the particular things that you struggle with, or anything that you want to say but you don't feel confident about that. So start there, and then that's an easy way to find something that you want to work on. And then like what I explained in this video today, where you are focusing on the particular things you're interested in, so whatever grammar point or vocabulary, you will start seeing more examples of that naturally appear in your life. Thank you in advance. Thanks for the great class. Thanks for this phenomenal, you would say phenomenal live. Drew, you can wrap up the class. You must be tired. We appreciate your effort. Ella says Peppa Pig is a very good program. Learn the real nice and basic English for those who begin this journey. Yeah, and they're actually like kid shows like that for adults also have a lot of good vocabulary. Remitan says, hi, do you have any tips on how to differentiate the main words in a quick native conversation when he puts the words together quickly? I would pay more attention to I would get a lot more examples of that. This is what we do in Fluent for Life. So we want to give you lots of examples of native speakers speaking quickly and using more advanced vocabulary. So if you prepare for that, then you will be prepared for it in real life. Olympia says, amazing teacher. I understand you very much. Glad to hear. Okay, understand. MBO. I have a problem understanding English phrasal verbs. What do you recommend? I recommend get my visual guide to phrasal verbs, and that will teach you how to understand phrasal verbs like a native speaker. So again, the answer to almost every question is, how do I understand something like a native? So you have to learn English as a first language if you want to use it as a first language. And if you'd like to do that, you can click on the link in the description below this video to get more information about Fluent for Life. Let's see. And Olympia says, please don't forget the water. It's very delicious over here. Thank you very much. You don't need to react to everything. All right, Alan says, good advice. Yes, and Santosh says, me being a software developer, I don't face issues in meeting and explaining my codes, but feel blank and instructing kid on playing badminton and addressing eating to help me overcome. Yeah, so again, you have to learn English like a native, but if you watch a couple of my videos, like the recent ones, I will be talking basically about this same idea, but from different perspectives. And this is also what we do in Fluent for Life. So most of the things on YouTube, it's trying to explain to people the principle of learning English as a first language if you want to become fluent. And then the step-by-step training, if you don't want to do this yourself, is in Fluent for Life. Anyway, it looks like we're at the end of the comments, which is awesome because I'm getting tired, getting hungry. But have a fantastic day. Thank you all for joining me. I should be here this coming Thursday, 3 days from now. I'll see you in the next video.